In a world where we are constantly pushing boundaries and exciting the realms of what is physically possible, people are always looking for that competitive edge where 1, 2, 3% makes all the difference in performance. But whether you're an ultramarathon runner or a cyclist, swimmer, or simply someone who's just looking to maximize their gym routine or even just improve their health, I've picked 3 unbelievable nutrients that are going to significantly impact your ability to work out and recover, that I've picked based on the quality of their evidence and their ability to maximize your performance. I picked them based on their ability to actually alter the biochemistry and optimize your physiology. There are plenty of videos out there that look at how to fuel for an ultramarathon, what's the best carb to run for longer. This isn't that. This is going to be looking down at a closer science and how to maximize the efficiency of your engine. So when we're talking about cardiovascular endurance, it's important to understand what allows us to be able to aerobically exercise for long periods, enables us to keep moving, but ultimately what hinders us and eventually stops us from doing any more. Of course, we rely on the cooperation between the circulatory and the respiratory system to work together to deliver oxygen and nutrients to our respiring tissues, to remove the products of fatigue, and we rely on the efficiency of the tissues to be able to take those nutrients and convert them into the usable energy, that famous currency of all life and movement, adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, not to be confused with ATP. One factor that's going to limit your endurance and is often a sign of your true cardiovascular health is VO2 max. This is the peak power. This is the maximum amount of oxygen that you can take in, deliver to your respiring tissues, and turn into energy. But as soon as you hit that VO2 max, that clock is ticking. That wall is coming closer as the amount of time that you can exercise during this period is limited. But we're going to be looking at ways that you can maximize that window so that you can leave people in your rearview mirror. So number 1, I hope you like beats, not the ones by Dr. Dre, no filthy gully rhythms. I'm talking about the ones that grow in the ground and the ones that most people don't like. Beetroots. See, beetroots contain massively high amounts of nitrates. When you take these in, first converted in your mouth and then further in your stomach, is converted into something called nitric oxide. Not to be confused with nitrous oxide like you see on the Fast and Furious movies. Totally different. Now this conversion from nitrates to nitric oxide is encouraged as well in hypoxic conditions, i.e. when there's less oxygen available, or in respiring tissues where the demand of oxygen is high. Now nitric oxide serves a number of amazing functions when it comes to your endurance. It's a major vasodilator, so it increases your blood flow to the muscles. It helps increase your glucose uptake. It helps with skeletal contraction and relaxation. It promotes gas exchange, i.e. the transfer of oxygen between blood and tissues, and is also thought to increase mitochondrial biogenesis. This is the production of mitochondria, those all-important powerhouses in your cells that produce ATP. So what these biomarkers amount to is the theory that supplementing beetroot juice will increase your performance. Now, as with anything, we can find evidence in the literature that both supports this and doesn't, but the overall trend is towards something that's significantly beneficial, and even the Australian Institute of Sport has ranked this as high quality of evidence. So when they took a bunch of trained athletes and they trained them at both 60, 70, 80 and 100% of their peak performance, they found that supplementing with beetroot juice improved their ability to exercise at every single one of these intensities. And this might reflect that the athletes are consuming less oxygen and therefore they are working at greater efficiency and can delay the time until they hit that VO2 max, when that clock starts ticking as to when you have to stop and tap out. What this amounts to is that you can put in longer and more sustained effort. In another study of cyclists, they measured them at 40 minutes at a sub-maximal intensity, and then afterwards they knocked them up to 90% of the max intensity and measured how long it took them to become exhausted. And what they found was those guys who had the beetroot juice pumping through their veins managed to go for 16% longer, which is no small figure. These findings suggest that beetroot juice may therefore have this ergogenic effect, that it can increase the efficiency of the tissues and our overall cardiovascular endurance, which increases performance in prolonged events where there are alternations in intensity from moderate up to your VO2 max, which is very characteristic of a lot of endurance events like cycling with stages, or ultramarathons with lots of ups and downs and rests, or even CrossFit over multiple days. So there does appear to be a clear benefit in supplementing beetroot juice and improving your oxygen delivery and efficiency, removal of waste products, and overall cardiovascular health. So other tests have explored the link between chronic use of beetroot juice and athletic performance. Because beetroot juice appears to increase the amount of mitochondria in your cells, therefore theory being more mitochondria, more ATP, more energy, and it also appears to increase the efficiency of oxidative phosphorylation, the process of taking oxygen and glucose, converting it into ATP. Together they amount to increased energy. So maybe by taking beetroot juice for longer before events, you see an even bigger impact on performance. Because ultimately that period that you exercise before hitting that anaerobic threshold, that point between your body can no longer just take the oxygen, turn it into energy, but has to rely on less efficient uses, causing the buildup of lactate. The longer you can spend in that window, the further you can go without pain, the further you can go without stopping. So another study in trained cyclists showed that supplementing with beetroot juice 6 days before assessment showed that their VO2 was lower during the assessment period, i.e. they were using less oxygen. What's more, following the submaximal test, the riders were able to improve their 10-kilometer riding time. And similar results have been corroborated in swimmers and other cyclist studies, where they've shown that supplementation for over a period of days was linked with increased performance during those submaximal and even maximal intensities. In another study where they just took healthy, physically active individuals but not trained athletes in any particular sport, and what they did was they measured the acute and chronic effects of beetroot juice for up to 15 days beforehand. And what they showed was that when given the beetroot juice, they performed better during incremental cycle tests, but they also performed better just in constant load up to 90% of the maximum, lasting longer and performing better. So personally, if I'm training for an event, whether it be an ultra marathon or a fight, I do like to supplement with beetroot juice about 2 weeks beforehand. Just knock back a glass a day, and I think that's going to get you maximum amount of benefit. So you want to be aiming for beetroot juice, not beetroot juice, something completely different. Try and get organic or make it yourself. If you are going to buy, then do try and get 100% beetroot juice, not juice drink, i.e. apple juice with a couple of drops of a beetroot juice in it. You want 100% beetroot juice. Can't speak to the taste, but it does appear to have a good benefit on your athletic performance. Beetroot juice is really good for a number of reasons as well, so I would encourage you to use it not just in preparation for an event, but do try and incorporate the food or the drink into your diet naturally, as it is just a great cardiovascular tool. But as an added bonus, it has been shown to be a great cognitive enhancer. See, beetroot juice helps actually alter the cerebral blood flow. It increases regional perfusion in the brain and allows you to perform better during cognitive tasks. In a test where they measured people, giving them a drink of 450 ml of beetroot juice and then giving them a battery of cognitive tests, when they compared this to the placebo group, they found that the beetroot juice group performed way better. So even if you're preparing for an exam, you might want to think about incorporating beetroot juice into your diet. So number 2 is tart cherries. So tart cherries contain massive amounts of phytochemicals and anthocyanins, which are linked with athletic performance and recovery. Tart cherry juice has been for quite a long time touted for its anti-inflammatory and anti-oxidative properties. But how can this translate to its use in sport? Well, tart cherries, or TC, does appear to reduce the amount of pain you experience and enables you to increase your athletic performance and endurance. So in a pooling of 10 different studies, they found that actually just supplementing between anywhere from 1.5 hours before or up to 7 days prior to an event, it showed that it massively increased your performance and your endurance. And it might just do this because of its effect on blood flow and its effect at limiting inflammation within the tissues. But one of the key components, and I think this is something that's perhaps overlooked when you're thinking about sport nutrition, is recovery. Now, of course, recovery is talked about a fair amount, but not necessarily in respect to repeated events. Your performance really depends on whether you're working at your optimum, whether you've recovered from the previous. So whether you're doing a multi-day event or staged event, or you simply just want to be going to the gym more regularly, your ability to do that and your performance is really dependent on what's happened prior. Now, the unique thing about tart cherries is that it has an amazing benefit on your recovery. So one really interesting study that highlights this is when they took a bunch of participants and they got them to do at 80% of the rep max a bunch of squats, about 6 different sets. What they did then was measure certain inflammatory chemicals within their muscles. They also then put them through other strength tests to measure how quickly they recovered or how they could maintain their strength. And they did this following 7 days of supplementing with 500 milligrams of tart cherry extract. And they compared this against, of course, a placebo group. And what they measured were things like myocardial band content, creatine kinase, and protein carbonyl. These are inflammatory molecules and indicative of the amount of cardiac and muscular stress you're going through. And what they also did afterwards was they measured their hand grip strength and their jump. And what they found was in the tart cherry group, they had less inflammatory properties in their muscles. They also reported less soreness. And in the hand grip strength afterwards, they performed much, much better, which highlights the ability to either maintain or recover quickly. So this study and others like it have shown that it might actually reduce the amount of cardiac and muscular stress and enable your recovery. So what I would advise is Tart cherry is best used when you're focusing on performance and recovery. That is when it's most optimal. When you might not want to use it is during the adaptive and building phase of your training program, simply because during those phases you are trying to incite a level of stress and reduce the amount of change needed to improve your performance. But if you use it during, say, a prolonged event or multi-day event, then you're going to reduce the amount of pain you experience in your muscles. You're going to reduce the amount of inflammatory process that is ultimately going to hinder you, and it can be used afterwards for quick recovery to maintain your strength. So the timing and dosage does seem to vary between the studies, but overall consensus seems to be that supplementing between 4 to 5 days beforehand, drinking 8 to 12 ounces twice a day, and then taking about 3 days after the event seems to be the best. If I go any further, if you are enjoying this and if you do want more content like this, then I promise you one thing, if you smash that subscription, it'll be the easiest thing you do today, but it might just benefit you for years to come with more information like this. So anyway, number 3 is carnitine. So carnitine grew in notoriety when 4-time Olympic gold long distance runner Mo Farah was pinged for having high levels in his blood. Now you might be thinking, well, why are you suggesting this if it's illegal? Listen, carnitine is absolutely legal. It's a natural supplement and a natural ingredient you find in many different food items. The reason why he was pinged was because he was injecting heroic levels into his blood, and so the illegal amount that you need in your blood will be far beyond anything I recommend here today. So in a systematic review, it did show that both acute and chronic use of L-carnitine had a really big impact on exercise performance at intensities of 80% of your VO2 max and beyond. So dosages of about 3 to 4 grams between 60 minutes and 90 minutes before the event seemed to have a big benefit. But also doses of around 2 to 2.7 grams taken anywhere between 9 and 24 weeks before an event showed they also reduced lactate accumulation, increasing work capacity at maximum intensity. And this was true for endurance events and even leg press. So its application is really versatile, whether you're training for endurance or simply trying to get maximum rep in the gym. In terms of natural sources, you can get carnitine, the most rich sources being red meat, poultry, fish, but you can also find it in lower quantities in nuts, legumes, and grains. As an added bonus, there are studies that show it increases sperm motility and also relieves symptoms of depression. So there you have it. So in summary, beetroot juice you can use acutely, but I would encourage you to incorporate it into your diet and use for the more holistic benefits of it long term. Number 2, tart cherry. You can get the extract of 500 milligrams or try and aim for between 8 and 12 ounces, or 1 ounce if it's concentrate, and you want to do that twice a day, 4 to 5 days before an event and 3 days afterwards. And number 3, carnitine, again aiming for 3 to 4 grams acutely prior to the event, between 60 and 90 minutes before, or you can use it long term, 9, 10, 20 weeks prior, and you're looking at 2 to 2.7 grams. So anyway, I hope that helps, and I hope that allows you to maximize your performance or just feel a little bit better. Anyway, take care.